Welcome to our fourth community conversation. We have been holding these conversations throughout COVID-19, the pandemic, to help people stay connected and learn more about our partnership projects and the people who are leading them. And it's been great to stay connected with everyone and be able to share some more information. And tonight we're sharing the screen with the South Coast LGBTQ Network. It's led by an incredible group. We're so excited to be able to talk with them and have some of them be able to share their story with all of you. So we have Andrew Pollock, who is the president, Rebecca Mccullough, vice president, Carrie Zaida, marketing director, and David Walega, development co-chair. So welcome to them. And we also have with Whale, Terry Bernert, executive director, and myself, Teresa Wander, development coordinator. So we're gonna hand it off to Andy and the rest of the speakers, and we hope you enjoy.
Well, we'd like to welcome you tonight to the presentation about the LGBT network and the potential that we have in setting up a LGBT center in the South Coast. We're really excited. We have an amazing team of folks. And we've also got a really good array of services that you'll hear about tonight. One of the things that is amazing to me is that we've been able to do a lot of these things during COVID and during a time that we don't have a building that we can call our own. Yet we've reached out to folks in the community, especially this year, the trans community. And we've also identified youth and elders as individuals in our community that are vulnerable and are more at risk. And I love the fact that we are from teen to elder, with everyone in between, safely and joyously celebrating their true selves. I love that. It's a wonderful phrase. Next phrase. We have a team of folks that came through a process with the South Coast LGBT Network. Some of us started with the Marriage Equality Group in 2003. This is a little timeline of how the group came about and some of the ups and downs. A negative was the Puzzles attack. Some of us remember that when someone went into a bar with a hatchet, machete, and a gun and shot up the place. From that, positive things happened, however. We see that in 2009 that A Perfect Place was started for the youth group. In 2014, these groups formally came together as the South Coast LGBT Network. We've had positive things that have happened. We've had some negative things that have happened in the community. We're excited about the potential going forward of a home, a place where we can have an umbrella organization in the physical sense of the word, where everyone is under one roof. We're excited that this potential looks like we will be heading for the end of a 2-year process. So hold on to your hats. Great. Next slide. We have a great team of folks. This is some of our development people, our board of directors, and we're blessed that as people have been coming back to New Bedford and seeing what we're doing, what I hear a lot is, wow, I wish this had happened when I was young in New Bedford, Fall River, or the South Coast area. So we're excited that our legacy will be providing a better environment for those who are coming up behind us. Great.
And I'm Carrie Zaida. I'm a lifelong resident of the South Coast with a brief career diversion out on the West Coast. And I'm the marketing director for the group. And I joined earlier this year when the organization undertook a pretty significant rebranding, an attempt to, focus what are really some limited resources and a lot of volunteer efforts to bring to the LGBTQ+ community here the services and the resources that they need. And so we wanted to share with you how, what our thought process was like, and how we think of both growing the audience from the base we believe we currently serve, which is about plus or minus 5,000 people here in the South Coast. And that's a mix of both LGBTQ plus and allies and other organizations. And we think the total market here for our community is in the neighborhood of about 22,000 people. So there's some work we still have to do, obviously, to broaden our base and make sure that everybody has access to all the services that we're putting in front of them. But at the same time, we found through doing our own research and through following the research that mass.gov provides, the Fenway Institute shares, the Equality Fund has sent us, that really 3 primary areas need to be focused on in not just next year, but in the years to come. And that's really in the areas of youth, transgender and non-binary, and senior citizens. And of all the statistics that we've read about LGBTQ plus youth in Massachusetts, one stood out, and it's this one, with nearly half of all youth seriously contemplating suicide in the last year alone. 48% versus only 11%, well, not only, but 11% of non-LGBTQ plus people. So nearly half of our young community is so distraught that they consider taking their lives. And we believe that that's a function of not having access to information, healthcare, support, celebrating who they are, a whole, panoply of services that we're really trying to make the best we can. On the transgender and non-binary side, again, you're looking at a group here that is within the broader LGBTQ plus universe, very marginalized. And over the last couple of months, we've had a fair amount of experience reaching out to this community, creating support groups for them. We hosted a Transgender Day of Remembrance candlelight vigil about a month ago to honor the 40 lives lost this year alone in the United States, which is more than the Human Rights Association had ever tracked in any year. And we believe, again, there, with the creation of this community center, that will provide a home for people who desperately need our support. On the right-hand side, at the other end of the age spectrum that we serve, you have the senior community, people whose experiences are very different, obviously, than the younger people growing up today. I'm going to be 58 next year. My experience was different. The way I interact socially with people is different. Not everybody in the senior community feels comfortable even coming out. They don't have access to technology sometimes or facility with it like many other people do. And it's created some challenges. And so part of the offerings that I want to discuss next are, again, really about bringing people together and making them aware that there's support and services that they can access so that their lives can be easier and more satisfying. So let's look at the next slide. I wanted to give you an example of the type of work that the network is doing. And we're very proud of these next 2 slides because they represent a lot of work that we created and a lot of events that we produced during the pandemic. So, in the interest of providing everything from health and wellness programs to legal and professional services to help LGBTQ plus individuals find gainful employment, to entertainment, to, of course, celebrating and recognizing the uniquely wonderful contribution they make to our lives. We did everything from a pretty robust online Pride Month in June. We've got Wellness Wednesdays and Fridays with yoga and meditation and other forms of self-care. We honored the artists in southeastern Massachusetts, and we helped them promote and sell some of their work during Pride Month. We got actively involved in the Get Out the Vote initiative leading up to this last month's election. And we're looking at doing many more things next year. If you go to the next slide, including introducing some remote cooking for as long as we're under COVID restrictions, because a lot of people told us that they love the aspect of food and social interaction that we haven't provided, so we want to start to introduce. A holiday toy drive is now underway. In fact, tomorrow we're going to be distributing toys and gifts to 12 of the neediest families in the South Coast, thanks to some of the partnerships we have in the community that we've been building over the last 6 years since we were founded. And of course, we've tried as best we can to facilitate the conversation around Black Lives Matter and racial injustice. And I think one other very important thing I want to leave you with here is that thanks to the work of other people within the network, particularly the work of Eileen Dugas, who's our network coordinator, we've been able to secure funds from other organizations like the Lenny Zakem Foundation, who gave us money that we could then pass on to the community in the form of financial assistance during the time of the pandemic. And so I want to echo what Andy said earlier and hope that you agree that if we're able to accomplish what we've done just this past year with limited financial resources and primarily volunteer manpower and woman power, just imagine what we can do with your support of a community center where we can bring all of this planning and all of these activities under one roof. So thank you, and I'll hand it over next.
Awesome, thank you so much. So now we're gonna switch to learning a little bit more about our partnership project. We're transforming 68th Street in downtown New Bedford into a South Coast LGBTQ community center. So we're gonna switch it over to Terry, and she's gonna talk a little bit about the feasibility process. Terry, you're muted, by the way.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Teresa. Over a year ago, some members of the board of the network contacted Whale to look at this incredibly cool historic building on 8th Street that was owned by the city for their community center. And we took a walk through, and everyone was just, this is the perfect fit. The 3 stories, the square footage, the style of the building, the location of the building, everything about it. So I talked to them about doing a feasibility study for the reuse for their community center, and off we went. And we hired, the network hired JMBA Associates. Rob Smith is the architect, and Whale as the historic and development consultant, and then the whole network team. So we've been doing our meetings through Zoom and our reuse analysis of the building through Zoom, but it's really worked well. And it's just the project that keeps on hitting home runs. You'll see the reuse analysis that Rob put together, fitting all the many programming needs you heard from the network team into this building, and how to do that the best way possible. So, and then to look at the financial viability of the project and to start a business plan, which has really gotten a lot of headway. And so we're finishing up the feasibility study, and it is definitely a go on this project. It's been a true pleasure to work with the network and their talented board and development committee. It's just been a great process, and Rob Smith's been an excellent architect. So I'll let the network continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name's David Wallaga, and I'm on the development committee. And here we have some exterior photos of the actual building on 8th Street. And just before I begin, I just wanted to say on a personal level, I grew up in the New Bedford area, and I returned during the COVID pandemic. And as a older gay man, I came back to this location just not knowing what to expect. And I'm just so absolutely excited and floored that there's such a robust community here and supportive community here. And I think that having a physical location in the heart of New Bedford is going to add such a positive spin on the sense of community and people having a place to go to get various needs met and various pieces of information. So I'm just really excited to be a part of this process. So the building on 8th Street is a great building. It's very unique architecture. You can see from it that it looks like it's in very good shape, even though it hasn't been occupied in a while. Those tiles that you see on the top are actually slate tiles. And they're actually in great condition. The outside of the building is very solid. And the bottom part is concrete bricks that have actually been carved to look like stone. So it's a unique building. It's going to be spruced up. All of the gutters are copper, and they're going to be taken down and refurbished and put back up. And just imagine some nice plantings and things around the building, and it's just going to look great. So if you can go to the next slide, we'll see the back of the building. So the back of the building is going to need a little work, but everything that's wood on the building is probably going to need to be replaced as far as the exterior. But as you can see, there is a driveway that goes down and around. So the accessibility is really wonderful here in this building. It's situated in a great part of the neighborhood where it's going to be accessible via bus, and the parking's not too bad of an issue. And it's just a great central location. And so for special events, for different symposiums and things like that, this is just going to be a great central core for people to meet. It's close to Fall River, it's close to Providence, it's right here in the South Coast. It's just going to be, we couldn't ask for a better location. And as far as the building and the exterior goes, it's really a great place to start. And I think I'll pass it on to Rebecca to talk about the interior.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm Rebecca Mccullough. I was actually one of the founding members of the first steering committee for the network in 2014. And I actually served as president until I was so happy with getting Andy to step in and really up the ante of what we could get done. His skills, his knowledge of the area has really helped us a lot. As you can see, on your left is the basement. Unfortunately, the ceiling height is only 6 feet, so we can't put programming down there. But it'll be a great resource for kitchen supplies for our commercial kitchen, art supplies for the art room on the 2nd floor with the youth. And you'll notice there's a dryer and washing machine room. We kept that there and put a restroom in there so that if we have kids that need it, any youth that are in need of those services because they're couch surfing or they're actually homeless, we'll be able to provide those services. And the red that you see or the purple is actually the staircases and hallways, but also the elevator. We'll have an elevator that goes from the back on the bottom floor all the way up to the 3rd floor. On the right is as you walk in the front of the building, on the left, you'll see our main office for the network. And as you go to the right, there'll be a really nice, welcoming gathering room. I see that possibly with little couches or couple of chairs near that beautiful front bay window, maybe a table in the middle with some chairs for gathering, and in the back probably 2 or 3 laptops and some, so that if people don't have access to the internet in their home, they can come and we can help them get an email or, and check their email. We're very excited about the kitchen. We're going to make it a commercial kitchen, and finally our Pride Cafe can have their own home right here in our building. The kitchen is big enough to have like the back half as the kitchen, and then we see little cafe tables, so we could really make like a little cafe. So people want to come in the morning, perhaps some of the seniors, they want to come in, have some coffee with their friends, gather in the gathering room or the cafe. And you'll notice on every floor, we're very adamant that this will be a totally handicapped accessible building. So every floor has at least one, and I think this has 2 handicapped accessible bathrooms. And on the north side of the building there, you'll see that ramp that will go down from the front of the building on the sidewalk, and there'll be a new porch in the back, and that will be where anyone in a wheelchair will access the building through the elevator. Next slide. The second floor, we're very excited that the NB Agley, A Perfect Place Youth Center will finally have a permanent home. And they won't have just one little storefront. They'll have a computer center and space for them to gather. You'll notice the orange on the left, we're putting in an art room that will be available not only to the youth, but also for anyone in the community. One of the other, as you'll see on the next floor, the Queer Arts Council of New Bedford is going to be one of our, is coming in under our, also under our umbrella. And they'll get a lot of use out of that. And I know the woman, Tracy Welch, who runs the youth center, actually has already lined up people, other partners, to come in and do some other art. So we're very excited about including more art. And as you see, the third floor will be mostly office space. We're hoping to get a therapist and other people who, one of them will be the Queer Arts Council, and other services that we can put in the building so that when people come, they're happy, you know, they're safe, they're secure in this building, that hopefully they will get some of the services that they need right here in the building. And I think that's all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. So we wanted to share a virtual tour of the building. Whale has been hosting a live virtual tour series over the past few months, and we're excited to be able to share a look into what the building looks like currently before construction starts. So we hope you enjoy. Let me start showing the building around. So this space is the main community space. It's going to be lots of different types of activities that will be held in here, different types of events. It's a great space. Some window detail. So there is going to be accessible bathrooms back here. This room and this back area will transform into handicap accessible bathrooms. There's going to be a ramp that wraps around the side and the back of the building. And that will lead to an elevator that will go to all the floors. So it's going to be accessible to everyone. This space, it's a little dark, but it's going to be a commercial kitchen, and it can be rented out and used for a variety of different things, and also kind of a cafe style. So it's great. There's going to be a kitchen that people can use if they don't have a kitchen themselves. This space right here is going to be the South Coast LGBTQ Network's main office space, right at the front. It's a great space that can hold
Grace's desk was right there.
a few people in it. So we can head upstairs. So it's kind of interesting. This building has 2 main staircases. So there's this staircase, but there's also this staircase. So I thought that was kind of a unique aspect of this building. So we come up in here. This is a great space. This is going to be an all-purpose space. People can rent it out, have different meetings in here, different events. There's going to be more bathrooms on this floor, and they potentially might have a shower in them. Again, there's going to be an elevator that goes to all floors, so it's going to be accessible to everyone. So here's another room. This is going to be an art space, along with this room, potentially a film studio. There's already another LGBTQ group that is interested in this space to use. So we're going to head up onto the third floor. So the third floor is going to be all office spaces that will be available for rent. And these can be rented by really anyone. There's going to be lawyers up here. There will be a therapist. It's a great, inclusive, safe space for people to use. I don't know the exact number of office spaces, but as the project progresses, that information will be updated and shared. And there's going to be bathrooms on this floor as well. And here is the other stairwell. I think this is just a closet. So yeah, this is an awesome space. I was really pleasantly surprised to find out that it had 3 floors. Gonna head back downstairs. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that tour. Sorry about the pause in the middle, but I hope you enjoyed being able to see the inside before any construction begins, and you'll be able to see the work as the project starts to begin more. Okay.
So we can see that we are in process. We've gotten reports done. We've gotten reports on asbestos, lead, mold, air quality. We've got the purchase and sale signed. We've spoken with our lawyer. The title looks clean. They're just waiting for the deed, and we're ready to go. It's a very exciting time. Next slide. We are in process of applying for the community preservation grant. That grant will help us work on the outside of the building. We are also talking with individual donors, starting that process. We will be raising money on this quiet phase for a while until we get to a certain level where we want to bring this really public. But on the short term, we did get some generous donor gave us some anonymous donations. We have a couple that have agreed that they would be the lead donors. So things are falling into place, and we're really excited. So it looks like with grants and with different individual donations, we should be able to reach our goal.
Thank you, Andy. So here's some contact information. We have our website, social media. I hope you can follow. If you have a Facebook or Instagram, definitely check us out. And then some emails to reach out to. I will also be following up with all of you and sharing this. So you don't have to write everything down. I'll be sharing that at a later date. And now we're going to switch to the Q&A section. This is a great time for you to share any comments, concerns, or have have any questions that weren't answered already by the previous slides, there's 2 ways to ask a question. You can use the chat box, or you can use the hand icon. The way you do that is clicking that participant button at the bottom of the screen, and then you should see a hand icon, and that'll let me know and everyone else know that you have a question. So I'm going to stop sharing, and you are all welcome to turn your screens on if you'd like and ask any questions. We're happy to answer anything you're wondering about.
That's a chat box for talking. No, if you want to talk. It's muted. Okay. It's not. I think I'm doing this right. I'm not sure.
Hi,
Can you hear
Philip.
me?
Hi. Yes,
Oh,
we can hear you.
Yeah, hi. Well, this is kind of an interesting history. I was born in New Bedford and grew up there till I was about 10. And my family moved across to the Bay to West Falmouth. But I remained connected through friends and had a really incredible interest in the architecture of New Bedford, and am since became an architect, and have lived in New York most of my life now, adult life. This is my partner, Robert. We live in Brooklyn. And I've been following Whale for quite a while from the preservation point of view and the history point of view, but was really pleased to see this pop up as a project, and very interested. We've been very active here in New York in gay activities, going back as far as Stonewall and with the Gay Center here in New York. But also, coincidentally, the building I know very well. It was my father's office in the 50s.
Oh.
And he was on the left-hand side, and there was another doctor on the right-hand side. And so I spent many an afternoon in there, you know, waiting to be driven home, that kind of thing, hanging around downtown. So, you know, it's just a circle of coincidence and interest. And I think it's a great project. Wonderful to see it happening.
That is so great. Well, thank you so much for joining and sharing that with all of us. That is so awesome to hear. And we're so happy that you're still connected to us. And now you're finding even more connections. So that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Liz, I see that you have your hand raised. So you have to make sure you're unmuted first. Liz, we're having a hard time hearing you. If you want, can we hear you now? So we can't hear you, but what you can do is you can send your question through the chat box if you like, and then we can, if you have a question.
Liz, you just click on the unmute button that you might see on your screen.
They did unmute, and
Oh,
Liz,
okay.
yeah, we can't hear them, unfortunately. We must have really answered every question that people had.
I'd love to hear some more reactions, even if they're just stories or
Yeah.
just tell us what you think. It doesn't have to be anything structured. We're here to get input and some validation that you think this is a worthwhile undertaking.
Also, I see Rob Smith is on, so maybe he wanted to say a few words about the design effort and the process over the last year.
No pressure though, but if
Yeah.
you'd like to. Paula, I see that you had something you'd like to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I was listening to the presentation. I was wrote down some of the stats, and I think I missed, there were, I guess, 3 areas that the group wanted to focus on.
Yeah.
And one was the youth and transgender group, and then the senior citizens.
Yeah.
What was the other third focus?
Well, those were the 3, and then the idea was that since we've only got about 5,000 people in our total universe right now, when you look at social media and some other sources that we refer to, we want to expand that to cover hopefully the whole audience in the South Coast. So there's this activity that will be broader in nature and more general type marketing. And then what we want to do, Paula, is spin off from that some very focused activities around LGBTQ plus youth, transgender and non-binary individuals, and senior citizens.
Okay, because some of my friends, some of my colleagues, or some of the women that I hang out, one of the complaints has been that the group has sort of has really focused on the transgender group as well as the youth, but there doesn't seem to be a lot for lesbians, and that was sort of, so in trying to get them to come back and be part of the group, I one of the things that they commented is, well, what does the group offer us? What can we do? And so, and I'm just echoing some of the concerns that they don't feel like, I guess there's not enough for them to be interested in, I guess. And I'm trying to just put that out there as, just something to keep in mind. The other question too that I had, that I was kind of interested, there were the stats that you got from Fenway.
Yeah.
And when it said that 65% of this transgender people were experiencing discrimination, is that a stat that was focused on Massachusetts, or was that sort of a countrywide stat? I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, Paula, all of those were from that Fenway report that covered exclusively the Massachusetts area. And
Massachusetts, okay.
Yeah, so what we tried to do was extrapolate a little bit from that data, how that would apply for us down here. And I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because one of the things, when you look at overall goals of the organization, and one of the reasons why this community center is such a high, will hopefully be such a high point for us, is because what we are finding is that a big chunk of our audience doesn't stay in the South Coast to get a lot of the services they need. They're going to Providence, they're going to Boston, and we want to make it so that we're a hub here as well, because we're such a great there's such great medical facilities here, and there's so much here, history and otherwise, that we felt in order to rival the services they were getting elsewhere, we needed to up our game and have the right kind of community center for them and have the right kind of programming.
So are we doing something where if you build it, they will come, or is the need here?
I think I speak for our group when I say the need is here. I think the challenge is that we need to communicate better that we're here in the first place. Our group is made up, as Andy Pollack said in the beginning, of a coalition of other groups, all of whom are doing amazing individual work themselves. And we share a lot of our resources. And, as a network, our primary responsibility is kind of bring people together. And that just doesn't mean for the programming that I showed you, but to make people aware that AHA, the Queer Arts Council, Fall River Pride, all of these groups are also offering services that the community may not know about. And so, for us, it's I think a matter of communication and getting the word out, and having a central location for all that, a physical location, I think will help us do that better.
Okay, because maybe that could very well be the case. I'm concerned a little bit because as part of the events committee for several months before the pandemic kind of shut all this stuff down, and we were Tracy worked very hard along with Dennis Wong to put together a prom, prom-like function for the transgender youth, and yeah, Feroche. And you know what? We didn't get a lot of participants. Now, it could be that maybe the transgender folks weren't really into the fashion, but it was just concerning that there was a lot of time put into that, and we weren't seeing we weren't and I certainly am trying to be careful with my words, but we thought it would generate a lot of interest and like people wanting to sign up, the youth wanting to sign up, and they just didn't. And so,
well, Tracy's here. I see Tracy.
Yeah.
On
Could be
our
that
board.
maybe it
She's here.
wasn't
Do you
the
want
right
to talk
event,
to that, Tracy, a little bit?
Well, I agree with Paula, and one of the things we're working on right now is visibility, right? A lot of people aren't visible out because of the harassment, the concern for their safety, their needs, their welfare. And like Carrie and I had a conversation months ago, how many transgender individuals do you think we have in our area? And when I 300, he's like, no way.
I
And
couldn't
I'm like,
believe
really?
it. Yeah, I didn't.
And he's like, so a trans group started in Westport. Every other week for the last 3 months or so, they can't meet right now. But we're meeting outdoors, but now because of COVID, they can't meet inside. So they're there, and I will tell you that 3 of those kids are youth, and they meet the criteria of our youth group ages 14 to 24. And one wasn't there, one of the nights, but was there before. I think visibility is part of it, and them not coming out. And feeling safe. So we wanted to do Feroche, let kids know that maybe this year, the first year, if we had it last year, which we are having it in May this year, hopefully God willing, that kids will understand, be able to see, it is okay to come out. And I think our tea dances were helping our community for everybody at large. People were actually coming out I've never met before. And we've been invested in the network now for, I don't know how many years now, 6 years.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I didn't know you existed, right? Where have you guys been? And I'm like, well, where have you been? How did you find out about us? So outreach is huge. Carrie's marketing, getting it out there, sharing information and events. And then hearing like Paula, we talked about this before. We don't cater to just gay right now, right? Not just lesbian. We're catering to more of the needs of the trans, the youth, and the seniors, because that's our popular, I guess the needs, right? The more needy, I guess if you want to call it that, and that's what our focus is on. But trust me, I'd rather have like a lesbian event or just a gay men's night, but visibility, I think, is for the youth.
Well, I think, well, this is the issue though, is we got to look at where's the funding going to come from? Where the fundraiser is going to be, how is the money going to be fed into this group?
So we also had Pride Cafe.
So
well, I think Andy, maybe you can talk to the fundraising piece and how the kind of support we've already received from sponsors and individuals. Isn't that what you want to know, Paula?
I guess what I want to say, what I want to say is, I think that there's we almost look at the whole group as potential clients or potential people to donate. And so if they feel like they have a vested interest in the group, then they'll come to the fundraisers, then they'll donate the money. If so, say if you've got a group of lesbians that are like, well, I'm not really getting anything from the South Coast, from the South Coast LGBT group, what's in it for me?
So I was just going to say that the art room that we have, I know at the beginning of the presentation, when we first started doing it, we were going to invite the Q Plus Club. That was one of the things that Rebecca said we might be bringing somebody else in. That's the 8 to 13, at Elma Del Mar. I forget what, 10 to 13-year-old. But that art studio is going to be for us to say, you know what, ladies' night, come on up. Ladies only, men only, and be able to rent that space out. The NB Agley floor, as we call it, is going to be an open community space. Even though we said, Pride Cafe is the 18 plus group for anybody in our community to meet every Monday night and hang out. So even though, certain things have like merged, Pride Cafe maybe have gone to like men for the most part. It's been open to the entire community since South Coast Equality started it back, when was I on that? 6 years ago or 8 years ago. But I totally hear what Paul was saying, because when I'm at tea dance, and what else are you guys doing for the ladies, right? In La Place, our local gay bar hasn't been, what it was in our past. But I'm looking forward to the programs. Again, that art studio, would it be great to have, you know, certain events that we could just cater to, just a women's night or just a men's night of what that looks like for our gay community.
I would also add, and I don't think it was addressed earlier in the presentation too, that the money we're trying to raise for the community center also goes to staffing and taking some of the pressure off of the group now that's putting all these programs together, like myself, like Tracy, like everybody on the team. And that, again, when you have limited resources, you have to figure out how to focus your efforts. And I think the trans piece has gotten a lot of attention because in the last couple of months, they've had milestone events in their history that we've been trying to honor. And so, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And, you know, maybe it's not enough that we just let broader events like Pride celebrations and National Coming Out Day and some of these game nights and entertainment nights carry the weight for the lesbian community here. Maybe we need to do more work on that. So I'm really glad you brought it up. It's just like I say, hopefully with more funding and with broader awareness, it'll give us the freedom to focus on these subsets of the overall community.
I could speak a little bit. We've had a number of programs. We've had book clubs, you know, on and off, because certain groups that were going to Pride Cafe, they said, you know, we'd like to do more. So we started a movie night for a while. We've had a few book clubs. Certainly, as Tracy mentioned, the tea dances were awesome, but we've also had a number. One of the things that came up when we did our survey of the area and the LGBT needs was the need for more health and wellness. And we've done a number of health and wellness.
Yeah.
And I noticed Jeff is here. We did an awesome, even through COVID, we had an awesome 6 or 8 week program in August into September where we had yoga in the park.
Okay.
And, you know, we
Yep.
pulled through a grant to give like a box supper as well as some gift cards for people that were more in need of food. So we've tried to do, Eileen, and all our programs are pretty much done by grants and partnerships.
Yeah.
We have wonderful partnerships with people all over the city, with art museums. We do the film series in the winter. So we do try to do as much as we can, you know, to really get those people in. And I will say this year for the first time, because it's hard, we finally in 2019 with the 50th anniversary of Stonewall and our first really big Pride, that, you know, we had over 500 people attend that. And then we had AHA Pride for the first time. That has really started to grow our database. And this year already, we probably doubled what we raised last year for our year-end appeal. So we're excited of getting that grip on the area, and hopefully, you know, we will work with more people as we go forward.
And that's what this is about. This is feedback. We're so glad you shared this, Paula. And sounds like you and Tracy have a working relationship already. So thank you for bringing that up, because granted, we've been focused on other areas in these past couple of months, but 2021's a new year and we're in the middle of planning right now.
Yeah, and Paula, just if you can maybe get some pointers from the lesbian group, what are they looking for? Or what are we, you know, what are the needs, right?
We're always looking for ideas.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. So one of the things that, so when I moved back, I also grew up in New Bedford, and then I was out in California for almost 15 years. And so I moved back in 2018, and this was exactly this is the first group that I looked, you know, what are the gay resources, gay and lesbian resources here? And so and that's how I met Tracy and wanted to know more about the group. And then I came across the winter series. And what I did was I also joined a meetup group. And so I was kind of, you know, grabbing some of the women from the meetup group and say, hey, you know, let's kind of support, you know, let's support our LGBT community. And so I was able to bring some women over, enjoy the winter series, which they absolutely loved. And they were like, we're looking forward to doing more. And then it was like, okay, well, what else is there? You know, and I was like, well, and you know, and that's when these things started coming up, you know, the tea dances and the ideas. And then, but then after, it was sort of like the need is there or the want is there, but the programming may not be there. And and so then what I trying to get them to still continue to be interested in the group and supporting the group. I took a bunch of people to the Pride I helped out. I helped Tracy in my first Pride in New Bedford, and brought some folks over, and then so we're kind of getting that ball moving, and then it was and then once I started to go attend the meetings, I was like, gosh, what can we do? What can we do for the guys? What can we do for the for the girls? And then what do we do for the youth? And it just seemed like the last few months, it's been very, very focused on the youth and very, very focused on transgender. And some of the feedback that I was getting from some of the women is those two categories don't fit me. And I said, well, but that doesn't mean that you quit, and that doesn't mean that you don't participate. We just got to be part of the conversation, and continue, and support, and so that's just what I'm trying to do is obviously I'm here because I have an interest and I want to support, and just just hopefully be part of the conversation.
Paula, I'm going to share contact information for the South Coast LGBTQ Network, and we would love for you to reach out to them with any further questions. We just want to make sure everyone else has time to.
Everybody has the time.
Paula, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Okay.
We'll take that seriously.
Yeah, awesome. Jeff, I see your hand was raised, and we'd love to hear any comments or questions that you have.
Well, hi, everybody. What a great presentation. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to sort of chime in and say I want to say two things. First, I'm going to say that at the Gay Pride, we've kicked off the Pride with a yoga class. And the statistics of how many LGBTQ people there are in the South Coast, it's a little bit worth noting that so many of the people that come for yoga, they do come for the yoga, but they're mostly allies. And there's very little participation from our own people. And I don't know why that is, but it's a curious thing to maybe want to look at, because due to the work of Eileen Dugas and this leadership team of Rebecca and Andy, certainly Tracy, and with Carrie's help, we had this Wellness Wednesday series in the beginning of last year, and there was a really high turnout to a class I led on self-care and wellness. And I'm hearing that idea of wellness being something that's present. To me, it's something that bridges all of these categories: the youth, certainly anyone who's trans, our elders, and most and certainly the men and the women. Like there was a container there where we could all learn together, and through storytelling, there's a bridge that happens where the youth of today might not hear coming out stories or what it was like to live in the closet, those stories of our elders. But in something like self-care and wellness, it's not about the separation and the individual groups that need attention. It's how do we really gather that community together? And I want to say that this series that ran this summer in the middle of the pandemic, we had an outdoor series in the park, socially distant. If you couldn't be socially distant, we wore masks. Nobody that we know got COVID in that group, but it did attract a wide age group. There were straight allies there. There were lesbians, there were gay men. I don't know how everybody there identified, but I knew at least there was some of everybody, and they were full. They were fully participated, 20 people per week. So there's something there, and I think it's incredible, the presentation about how you're bringing all of this under one roof. And I think there's real power in that, and I'm optimistic and energized by hearing this update. So I'm so glad I was able to be on this call.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I agree with you that being outside and getting our community together, socializing in person is like at the core of what we do, right? And not being able to do that this year was made this really difficult. And the few times we did try to promote, we had Mimi Gonzalez, a very well-known lesbian comedian. We had Karen Williams do a comedy night at in July and August. She was sensational. We had a movie review for A Secret Love, the Netflix film. They weren't well attended, and I think a lot of it has to do with Zoom fatigue, right? Here we all are. We wish we could be downtown doing this in a big auditorium somewhere, but hopefully with the advances we're making now with the pandemic, come this summer, late fall, we can be back together again and doing the kinds of things we want to do, which are social in nature.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I just want to say to Paula that as much as I am moved to want to have inclusive and accessible experiences with this community, I also totally vibe with the idea of having just a ladies' night and just a men's night and things that are specific to that. I've been teaching a men's yoga class for years locally that attracts as many gay as straight men, some married, some single. And I have the desire to be in community with men doing yoga and whatever else is of interest. But I feel like there's something that bridges there and is lacking in my community in New Bedford that I don't have. I also spent 10 years in the West Coast. So some of us have that in common, I'm realizing. And I did have men's groups there that were nourishing. And so as much as I get that with my men's group, I would also love to know, is there enough gay men and have a gay men's night? So, it's a big inquiry.
Yeah. It's great input too.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. And I see that Rob Smith, you have your hand raised. So please unmute yourself and turn your video on, and we'd love to hear from you.
Get my camera set. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank Whale for hosting this wonderful presentation to highlight the development of this building for the LGBTQ network. It's been an exciting group to work with. I love the energy, lots of ideas and lots of programming. But for me, it's a synthesis of a lot of things, reuse and repurposing of an older building, and historic renovation, restoration, and as a gay man, to participate in a resource that will benefit so many people in the South Coast area. And also I could reflect back on when I first went to college and discovered the first well, it was just actually lesbian and gay back then, community center, and what it meant to me to have a place to go to and to be myself. So it's just great that there'll be an honest space for people to feel safe and in a wonderful building in a great city of New Bedford. So that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining the conversation. And Edward, I see you raised your hand.
Yes, I go to the LGBTQ suppers at the Fairhaven COA, and also to Bristol County lunches. And since the March, we have not met. I haven't heard from many people at all. We seem to be, I don't know, just staying home and staying safe, but the house seems like an excellent idea for information. All right, it's easy to say, well, where do I get this information? This type of thing. At least people will know. When we get back rolling in Fairhaven, I would like someone to come down and give a presentation about the house to everyone, so Absolutely. They know it's there. I don't know whether they know it's there or not. Thank you very much for the presentation and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you, Edward. Well, we're coming up on a little past 6 o'clock. We didn't want it to go past it too much more than an hour. So any last questions or comments? Yes, John, we see you.
Hi, John Vasconcelos here, and everyone was chiming in about their time in California. I had to also share. I spent 17 years in California and actually brought a husband back from California, so I think I get extra California cred on that. And time in New York for the New York couple earlier. So I know a lot of the folks on this, and this is really exciting to see this effort at this point in time. Big kudos. I mean, Rebecca, you have been in it since day one, and Andy, part of the MEC with you way back when. I just wanted to reflect on this because I mean, this is the beauty and the complexity and the tapestry of our community. I was also involved when San Francisco, of all places, decided it needed a gay and lesbian center in the 1990s. And you're thinking, well, why would you need it? The whole city's a gay and lesbian center. And I have to say, I mean, this is part of the lovely, and Jeff spoke more eloquently to it than I did. Because for many of us, when I was coming of age, it was gay, then it was gay and lesbian, and then it was LGBT, and we just, expanding the tapestry in a way that's really lovely and gorgeous and wonderful and complicated. And I'm really looking forward to this place being a home for all of those folks who identify with that. But I also, because of what I do in the community, I also want to make sure we lead with finding those most in need. And so I really want to acknowledge how you guys are going about this, because there will be a place for everyone at that table, but we know those weakest and most vulnerable amongst us should be the ones most invited. And so I do not mean that to convey that anybody should not be thought of at that table. But for me, to see the shock of those numbers, and we were all teenagers once, and we have all had those thoughts. And the fact that we are here, and particularly knowing that there's other gay men of a certain age, we are survivors. This is not our first pandemic. And so we know what it's like to come through and to create community and solutions, particularly when a whole world and a whole government was more than happy to see you and your friends die. So we're in a very different stage, and I really want to tip my hat to you guys, and happy to continue to be involved as much as I and my organization can. So Whale, thank you for doing this. It was really informative, and thanks for letting me go spout off for a while there.
John, thank you so much for those words. We appreciate that so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, this has been such a great event. It's great to hear feedback, comments, concerns, questions. It's great to hear everything. And we're so happy all of you were able to join us this evening. With the snow and the cold weather, I think it was a great time to come together and have this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. This is being recorded and will be shared on our YouTube and social media. So if anyone can join, you can share with them and they can learn about the project, but you can also just reach out to us with any questions that you have. I'll reach out with contact information. So thank you so much for joining. And
thank you, everybody.
Happy
holidays.
Happy holidays to everyone. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.